Hello and welcome back to another Board Crazy review. Today we are doing Biblios. I am D. I am joined as ever by... Oh. Where's Graham?
He was here, then he's gone.
He's probably arrested.
What was that?
He's probably arrested.
Oh, yeah. For cheating at board games. Hey, everybody. I'm Will. And, yes, if you probably noticed that we're Grahamless today.
Yeah, we'll get this review done ourselves.
Let's do it, D.
Okay. So, before we actually get to the review, we're going to run my introduction to the game from our gameplay video. There will be a time listed that you can skip to if you don't want to watch that. Otherwise, you can get a basic understanding of how the game works. Do you have something to say?
No.
Okay, cool. We're going to run that now. Biblios is a game for 2 to 4 players, designed by Steve Finn and published by Iello. The goal of the game is to gather the most victory points, which is achieved by collecting superior resources and workers, which come in the form of cards, for your monastery's library. To set up, the scriptorium board is placed on the center of the table, and the 5 dice are placed in their assigned spaces. Each die is representative of one of the game's resources and starts the game set to the number 3. Additionally, a number of cards, dependent on the player count, will be removed from the deck once it has been shuffled up, and then that's placed face down next to the board. The game is split into 2 phases. The first phase is called the gift phase, and players take turns in clockwise order being the active player. When a player is active, they will be drawing cards one at a time from the deck and allocating them to one of 3 places. The number of cards they will draw on their turn is equal to the player count plus 1. They must allocate exactly 1 card face down to themselves, 1 card face down onto the auction pile, and then the remaining cards go face up into the public space. Once they're done, the other players in clockwise order must draw 1 card from the public space and add it to their hands. This process is repeated until the entire deck is emptied. The second phase is called the auction phase. At the start of this phase, the auction deck that was created during the gift phase is shuffled up and placed face down on the table. Then players, again in clockwise order, take turns flipping over the top card from the deck to be auctioned off. Once the card is flipped over, the person to the left of the active player may make the first bid. They must bid either 1 or pass. This bidding process continues until either one player has won the bid or all players have passed. When a player wins the bid, they must simply pay for the card with their own cards and add it to their hand. If all players pass, the card is discarded. Gold cards are paid for with non-gold cards, and vice versa. Throughout the game, players will also be acquiring church cards. When this happens, play is paused, and the player with the church card may alter the value of 1 or 2 of the dice as indicated by the card. This is important because at the end of the game, the value on each die indicates how much that resource is worth when scoring victory points. Once the auction phase is completed, scores are calculated. Players add up the values of their cards for each of the 5 categories, and the player with the highest value for each category collects the corresponding die from the scriptorium. In the event of a tie, players simply consult the letters on their cards, and the player who has the card closest to the letter A wins the tie. Of course, the player who has collected the most victory points total is the game's winner. Okay, so that's how the game is played.
Yep.
Trying to score points.
2 phases.
Yeah, your monk's trying
Gifting
to
and
make a
auctioning.
library. Yeah, woo!
The typical life of a monk. Mm-hmm. Giving gifts and then going to auctions to purchase
what they
materials.
Do.
That's what they do.
No time for prayer.
Or brewing beer.
No.
None of that stuff.
No, we need auctions. But yeah, 2 phases. That's the sort of thing I think might turn some people off, a game that sort of fundamentally changes in the middle. But I really like it in this game. I think both phases are equally kind of entertaining, and I think they complement each other well. This is, and either one individually would not work as its own game, I don't think. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but I feel like they're a little underwhelming in that respect. Put them together, though, and I think it's a really good, complete package.
Yeah, it's definitely a little dry. On each phase, on their own, wouldn't be compelling. It's not until you experience the second phase that you even completely understand some of the awesome part of the first phase. And I think what ties them both together is the secret knowledge, as I like to call it. Because you're keeping 1 card for yourself, putting 2 out in front, and then putting 1 into that auction pile. I think the knowing what's in the auction pile, like what you've put in there, and trying to remember that, I think that's what ties the 2 phases together. Having that because that somewhat helps you in bidding, because you can wait for the certain cards that you kind of intentionally stashed. So I guess it's sort of like that, like secretly knowing what's going to be coming up in the auction, mixed with, I don't know, the joy of discovery that sort of ties those two phases together.
Yeah, plus I think in the first phase, it's a bit of strategy involved, the press your luck style, as far as like which card to keep for yourself and which ones to give away.
So the gift phase.
Yes, the gift phase.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a bit more than just, a step towards the auction phase. I think, it has its own thrills. I think, mystery is always fun, any situation.
I agree with you. There is a lot of press your luck. The game the rule could have easily been you draw 4,
and
then you allocate them. But it's like a very ingenious but simple rule that you draw one at a time.
Yeah.
So there's that moment that everyone has during this game where the first card you draw is a 3 gold or maybe a 2 or a 3 color card that you're trying to build that like suit in order to win the game. And I love you're right. There's that pressure like well do I give it up or do I draw? Much fun. That part.
While there is an element of luck as a result of this.
Of course.
I like how the second phase, you can sort of negate that because you might have these superfluous cards in your hand that you have no use for because you just got stuck with them, and then you can trade those in for gold, which you can then use to work towards stuff you actually need.
Yes.
So while you might feel kind of like frustrated in the first round, there's usually good ways to recover for it during the auction phase. If you're playing your cards right.
Yeah, you're right. That's neat. It's a good way to use those unneeded cards, but I also think it adds interesting strategies in and of itself because I found myself struggling early in the auction phase. Like, do I pull the trigger and try to bid on gold? And I noticed that more people were trying to bid on gold early. Mm-hmm. If you think you're strong enough, you could wait and try to bid towards the end and then just buy gold sort of just to hold on to it as a tiebreaker kind of situation.
If you're feeling confident.
Yeah. Or, you can try to go early and then you build up your gold supply, but then you might give up all your cards to pay, and then you won't be able to buy more gold. Yeah, that push and pull and press your luck. It's press your luck in the auction phase too. It's just super.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
For such an easy game to learn, such an intuitive game, that's they found a way to squeeze a lot of depth and intrigue.
Yeah,
it's not boring.
No, and another thing I like is kind of how the game uses math to sort of help alter your strategy. There's a maximum point limit for every single resource. So while some cards are removed at the beginning of the game, you might have a situation where you have, I have more than half of the maximum number of points for this color.
Yeah.
I guarantee to win. Suddenly you can start using superfluous cards from that color towards going for gold.
Yeah.
Because you don't need them, and you realize other people are also going to be trading those colors in as well because they don't want them. Mm-hmm. So and that's another way you can sort of diversify your hand by, using the numbers to your advantage, which is kind of fun, I think.
So we've talked about a lot of strengths, but I think there's also a weakness in what you just said. So at the beginning of the game, you remove an amount of cards depending on the player count. Mm-hmm. In a 2-player game, you'd remove the most. In a 4-player game, you'd remove the least.
Yeah, I think that's how it works. Yeah, in the 2-player game, you remove 6 gold cards and then 21 random cards. So that's a lot of the deck.
And I think that this game, I would actually say this might be a game that plays best with 3. And the reason
I agree.
The reason I say that is with 2, it could get a little repetitive because there's 5 suits. Mm-hmm. So there's almost enough there that you'll be able to tell based on what people are drawing, especially with 2.
Exactly.
Someone's going to go for 2 suits, and then someone else is going for the other 2 suits, and there might be one you could
try to be deceptive, but it's kind of pointless because there's only one other person. And I agree. There's going to be less luck, I think, in a 2-player game.
Yes.
Because there's less spread around. But yeah, I think that you're going to kind of know who has what and also who's winning. Yes. By that regard before the game's even over, probably. And also, it kind of makes the bidding sort of silly. If it's just 2 people, unless both people really want the same card, then
it'll
it might
be
be
one suit maybe that they'll be fighting over.
Otherwise it's just going to be kind of rote. Just okay, I'll take this one, I guess, and
It does, I think during the gift phase, you could maybe use a bit more strategy with 2 players to which cards to put in the auction pile, for instance.
And
but yes, you're going to run into this problem where it seems like you're sort of playing your own game instead of really competing against your opponents.
I think the auction phase you would see mostly bidding on the church cards where it would be super powerful in a 2-player game.
I also don't think 4 is completely ideal because there's so many cards in the game that I think it makes it easier to do the math, right?
Yeah.
So that also, I think, eliminates some of the luck and some of the intrigue, some of the mystery.
Yeah. And I think
the reason I like 3 is because you do remove some of the cards, but not as many. So you're not 100% sure how many of each color are in there.
Yeah.
So you can't rely strictly on looking at that card breakdown chart to do the math. And then also, because it's 3 people going after 5 suits, there's going to be a lot of battling between those players over the suits, which leads to a lot of player interaction, a lot of frustration, and a lot of joy. It's just, I think, the best way to play.
Yeah, I think an issue with 4 could be that you're going to see a lot more situations where players getting punished for trying to go after the same suit as someone else. The player who sort of has their own separate strategy from the other ones will probably, profit because there's going to be less competition for their colors.
Yeah, there's going to be fewer fallbacks for people who get caught in that situation where they realize, oh crap, like.
I do want to say though, like just to kind of go off what you were saying there, I think the game in general feels a little tight. It's very difficult, I think, to pivot from your strategy once you've sort of chosen it. Especially during the auction phase, it's one of these things where people are already going to have what they want, and they're going to be going for it as well. So like if you try to go for it, you may get a card or two, but it probably won't be enough to win. So you have to sort of stick with what you have. So
yeah,
a lot of it's going to come down to the church cards and how the numbers get manipulated.
It also is like a press your strategy game in many ways for that reason too. You can't be greedy, and you have to be more flexible because the game isn't as flexible as a lot of games.
Yeah.
So that's something to consider. It might not be for you if you're one of those. If you're someone who's not...
Yeah, part of it's just that it plays so quickly. There's like literally not time to pivot. Like each round goes like that.
Yes.
And you really sort of have to choose a strategy and hope for the best. How do you feel about the church cards in general?
The church cards are the ones that add...
Yeah, they're kind of, I think, the one sort of unique sort of thing in the game.
The church cards are cool, like that you can adjust the amount of what the suits are worth. But I think the problem is that if one player gets sort of lucky in this game and gets an amount of those cards that's disproportionate to the other players,
it can feel a little imbalanced at times.
Yeah,
or overpowered.
It can be frustrating that they keep killing the ones you're clearly, because it becomes clear fairly early on what people are going for.
Yeah,
especially when someone plays if your luck is so poor that you play a church card early and up yours. And then up yours, no, your victory points that you're going after. Yeah. Other players are like, okay, well, obviously now they know what you're going. Unless you're trying to bluff, you have the option to bluff. Why would you do that?
Using them is they're powerful, but using them you will probably be tipping your hand unless you're trying to do some sort of deception. And and I think they seem even more powerful during the auction phase. Once you're getting towards the end, and suddenly you're trying to figure out how many you're going to end up with, but also
there may not be a lot of them left in
and you have to pay for them during the auction phase. So I think it all balances out pretty well. There are times again where it can seem kind of like, oh, he got another one, great, but I think for the most part that they're interesting, and I think they work pretty well. That being said, like basically everything in this game thematically, it makes very little sense.
Yeah. Not just the church cards. Not much in this game.
The church cards don't make sense, but literally nothing in this game makes sense as far as like monks making a library. Like, why would they be handing out resources to each other like this? Why would they be auctioning for resources like this?
I don't know. Here's the thing. If you were to say to describe this game to someone, you might just say it's like about a bunch of monks trying to collect resources to build the best library. That's not what this game really is. It's not to blow. You don't build it to blow. You don't have
it's a set collection.
Everything's private once you take it. It's in a private hand, and it doesn't feel like you're building anything but a hand.
Yeah.
I think sometimes providing a story, like a background for like a themeless game. I
don't hate it. I mean, I don't mind a game having a theme just to have a theme. I just feel like this theme is so boring.
The whole game is very dry.
Like, the art is really bland. It's just like they could have done anything. It could have been ridiculous, but it's kind of just it's very dry. It's very European. It's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal with a game this light.
No,
and it doesn't. I would say that it literally does not dock its score for me in any way.
No, it does. It just has to be mentioned that it's just like it's completely ludicrous.
Yeah, I would say that it slightly felt kind of like. Yeah, well, it was underwhelming, but I also felt like a little disappointed. Sometimes when you're so little theme, winning doesn't really feel like anything. It's like, I won the game great, but what did I actually do?
Yeah.
It's nice when you play games where you're collecting resources and you actually see what you've built. This is just like, oh, wow, okay, so I have a bunch of cards now.
Yeah, like, how does it behoove a player to have, like, 3 of the resources really good and then neither of the other 2? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, it doesn't seem like, it seems like there's been some sort of, like, balancing act that you should be hoping to accomplish rather than just having the best of a couple things.
For me, maybe it's just my personal thing, but with more of a theme, it feels more exciting.
Yeah, this is a filler game, 100%.
It's a filler game,
yes, it's not, it's not a like a big budget sort of like sit down for hours and invest in yourself in a game type of situation. You know, it's meant to play between other games on like a board game night. You know, get a good half hour out of it. And I think in that respect, it's a good one. It plays legitimately quickly. It's mindless. It's not mindless at all.
Mindless. You have to think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's still mostly pretty fun, I think.
Yeah, there's a level of excitement.
Anyway, do you want anything else you want to add before you wrap up? Give our scores.
Nope.
I think it's not too much to cover with this game.
Yeah, I'm done.
I mean, I like it. It's not gonna be for everybody, obviously, but if you are looking for a good filler game that legitimately does not take very long, I think this is a very good option. And plus,
if you like bidding games too, or auction games, this is a great one.
Yeah, plus, it's ports 2 to 4, so compared to like a Lost Cities, which is I think just 2 players only. That's it's nice to have that the options there. So I'm going to I'm between 3.5 and 4 on this one.
Yeah.
I think I'll give it a 4. I'll be generous to Biblios. I think the things that I dislike about it are minor.
Oh, and I there is actually one thing I forgot to mention. I do like that with auctioning. If you bid, so you have the gold denominations are 1, 2, and 3. Let's say you bid 4, and you can't get to 4 exactly. I like that you have to like pay more than what you have.
I'm not sure it makes any sense, but again, nothing in this game really makes sense.
Again, it's another example how the game's sort of inflexible. It's like I have 6 gold, but I can't make 4, so I have to pay 5. So
whoever I'm
6.
like purchasing this from doesn't have change.
That's how auctions work apparently. But yeah, I like that. It is a little inflexible, but it does, again, add more strategy to the game.
Yeah.
My final thoughts are that it's a very, very solid filler game. It is absolutely themeless and seamless.
I guess. All right.
No, it is. Like the way the 2 phases work, it's tight, but maybe too tight, because it is very inflexible at times. Maybe lacks a bit of excitement overall, or like it's just not excitement. It is exciting, but it lacks like a wow factor. It doesn't have a... So, for that reason, and because I usually rarely score lighter games like this on the same exact scale as I would something slightly heavier, I think I'll give this... I'm going to give it a B-.
B-, okay.
But I mean, B- on a letter, like a number scale, it's close to a 4 out of 5.
Basically the same thing. Graham, what are you giving it?
I think Graham would give it 1 thumb up if he was here.
There it is.
Yeah, there. Oh, and now it's 2. We screwed up.
Again, this is our review for Biblios. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you, of course, could, give us a thumbs up. At the very least, it's the least you could do. But you also subscribe to the channel if you've not yet done so.
You entitled person.
That's the least you could do. And you could leave a comment if you want as well, either about the game or our review, whatever, strikes your fancy. We'd love to hear from you guys. We try to respond. Social media links are... Oh, you also... Well, there are social media links in the description below. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are all linked there.
Yeah.
You can also share this video, I wanted to say, because...
Yeah, share with your friends, or share any of our
if you have
videos.
Friends who are not sold on Biblios,
tell them to watch this.
Yeah. Graham's not going to be here for like a couple of weeks, so we're going to be taking things a little light, I would say, for the next couple of videos. But yeah, this Friday we're going to be doing a sequel to an earlier video.
A game we love.
For all you sports fans. So, until then, thank you for watching. Toodaloo.
See ya.